Crime and punishment has taken some weird turns throughout history. One of the strangest was animal trials. In medieval Europe, animals that killed people, especially pigs, were put on trial in actual courts. They were sometimes dressed in human clothes, assigned lawyers, and even executed by hanging. Some pigs were even sentenced to public executions in front of huge crowds, just like humans. Tarring and feathering was used from the 14th century England to the 18th century America. Victims had hot pine tar poured or smeared onto their skin before being rolled in feathers. It was meant as public shaming, but it often burned flesh and left lasting scars. In colonial America, mobs frequently targeted tax collectors and officials, turning the punishment into a brutal tool of political protest. Then there were the shame masks of 16th to 18th century Germany. Convicted liars, gossips, or blasphemers were forced to wear heavy iron masks shaped like pigs, donkeys, or fools. Everyone who saw them knew exactly what crime they had committed. Some were even built with bells attached, so the offender's humiliation was impossible to hide. In England and colonial America, women labeled as scolds were punished with the ducking stool. They were strapped to a chair, swung out over water, and dunked repeatedly into rivers or ponds. It wasn't a witch trial test. It was a punishment for being a nuisance. Some women drowned, others were left half dead from the ordeal. The device itself often stood in the town square as a visible warning to others. China used the cangue for centuries. This was a massive wooden collar locked around the offender's neck, sometimes weighing over 50 pounds. It was so heavy that many couldn't feed themselves, relying on others to survive. Criminals were often left on public display in markets or crossroads, forced to endure ridicule and starvation, while the weight slowly broke them down. Soldiers in Europe and America faced the wooden horse from the 1600s to the 1800s. They were made to sit astride a sharp wooden beam, like riding a horse, often with heavy weights tied to their legs. The pain was excruciating, and some men were left permanently injured. Military commanders often used it for drunkenness, desertion, or minor insubordination, turning the punishment into a terrifying deterrent. Another brutal device was the scold's bridle, also called the brank. Used in Scotland and England, it was an iron mask with a spiked gag forced into the mouth. Women accused of gossiping were paraded through the streets, bleeding and humiliated. The spikes made it impossible to speak, so the punishment literally silenced its victims, a cruel tool of control as much as pain. In ancient Rome, the punishment for Vestal virgins who broke their vows was simple: to be buried alive. They were locked in an underground chamber with a lamp and a little food, left to suffocate in the dark. Roman historians like Livy recorded it in detail, and the horror of it was meant to protect the sanctity of Rome itself, since the Vestal's chastity was believed to keep the city safe. The ceremony took place near the Colon Gate, in a specially prepared underground cell, as priests performed rites to avoid the ritual